The making of the graph is slightly different between different spreadsheet programs, although the principles are the same really. But I'll show you for three different ones, only for the version that I'm using, so there might be some differences, but at least it should give you a good idea where you can find all the functions that you need. And as I said, in essence, you're doing the same thing. So for all of them, you need to select what you want to make the graph of. So in this case, I have two columns that I could use, and I decide that I want to use the percentages. In addition, I want to see what they are of, so I could also select this column, or I could add this later. So there are different options, and even I could add the graph first and then add the data. It doesn't really matter what order you do things in. I find it quite easy to select these at the start. So I'm selecting all of these, but not the total, because I don't want this total to show in my graph. I'm not interested in that. And then holding down the command for a Mac or a control button for Windows, I'm going to select this column. So I'm leaving this one out because I only want the percentages to show up in the graph. Then I'm going to use the insert and click on chart. And this will produce a chart. Or it should do anyway. Yes, there it is. So you can see it has automatically added a title, and there's some automatic layouting, and I've got these values from this column automatically added over there. It has also opened up this chart editor where I can change these things if I wanted, or add more columns and things like that. If this were to close for some reason, that can happen, you can just open it again by clicking on these three dots and click on Edit Chart, and this will open this window here again. So there are two areas here. There's the setup, where I can change the type. So I would always recommend really bar charts are really good for the type of data in the database. These sort of pie charts can look nice, but they're often a bit less clear if you're not used to the data, depending what you have. Might be quite good if you only have two different values, for example. But in any case, I'm going to leave this as a column chart or a bar chart. It's called slightly different in the different programs. I'm going to leave stacking at none. I've only got one series of data anyway, but I would want to show them next to each other rather than on top of each other, but this is where you can change that. The data range, this is if I wouldn't have a data range, or if I wanted to add an extra one, I could do this here by clicking on this. And you can see I've got here the values, I've got the data, and I could add another range. So if I wanted to compare different areas, and have one color here and another one next to it, this is where I would do this, and I could just click here and select it in the spreadsheet. But for now, I'm not going to do that. And there's some other things here. So on the x-axis, I've already selected overall condition, but if I hadn't, I could add labels here, or I can remove them here. Here as well, I can add a series here. I can add labels. So there are various options, and I would recommend just playing around with this, just trying everything and seeing what happens if you're not used to this program already, because that's the best way to learn, really. And the same for customize. This is much more about what does the graph look like. You might want a different background color, you might want a border or not a border. Most common, you might want if the titles have been added automatically, but maybe if they haven't, you might want to add them, or you might want to add a bigger size. So this is automatic, but maybe I want it bigger for a presentation, for example, or this is the actual, the overall title. I can change here for example, the horizontal title. So if I think this is a bit small for a presentation, I've selected this, and now I can change the font size for it to be larger. So you can do this with anything. You can change the color. So if I wanted orange, so like that. And again, I would recommend to play around with it to figure out what's nicest, and you see, make a nice graph out of this. One thing to mention before the end of this part of the session is that the order of the values could be in a different order if I wanted to. So in this case, it's a logical order: good, fair, poor, very bad, destroyed, and then unknown. So I can leave that. But in some cases, or in many cases, in the database, the order will be alphabetic. And this might lead to a sort of messy graph with a low value here, and then a high, and then low. So in that case, you might want to do it differently and sort the values differently. So to do that, it's important to select everything that you want to sort, because otherwise things might get mixed up. You can do this in data by sort range, and this is similar. It's in a different place in the different programs, but it's similar between the programs. And I can say the data has a header row, and maybe I want, instead of sorting it from A to Z, or in the order that it is currently in a logical order, I might want to sort by percentage and having the highest percentage first. And let's click on sort, and this has changed it, and this has changed my graph. In this case, I'm going to change it back because and I can actually just go like this to change it back or change it. But in that way, you can play around also and make it clearer for the people you're presenting to what is, for example, the most common one that exists.